Is it possible to build serious muscle and strength with only isometric holds? That's what I asked myself 90 days ago. I don't always want to drive to the gym, but I also don't want to buy an entire equipment cave for my garage. However, I can do isometric holds without any of that. So to find out if they are really that good, I needed to make a plan first. Because there are 1,000 different isometric holds out there, obviously I can't do all of them. So I started with these 3. For the upper body, I went with the chin-up hold. You grab a bar, pull yourself all the way up until your chin clears it, and then you just stay there. Honestly, it's one of the hardest positions to maintain. However, for the lower body, I went with a wall sit at 90 degrees, and then of course, the classic plank. But there was a reason I picked all 3 of these. In my head, the logic was simple. If it burns the most, it must be doing the most. Sounds pretty smart, right? Yeah, that's what I thought too. But pretty quickly I found out I was wrong. Anyways, when it came to the routine, I didn't try to overcomplicate it. I kept it pretty simple. 4 sessions a week, 3 exercises each session, and about 2 to 3 sets per exercise. And to measure my strength, I went with push-ups. I started with 20 in one set. This is something I tracked weekly to see if I made real progress or if isometric holds didn't really build my strength. To make this 90-day challenge more interesting, I set a goal. I want to do 50 push-ups at the end of these 90 days. So let's see how it went. Week 1 starts, and honestly, the first 3 days fly by so fast, it almost feels like nothing's even happening. On day 5, that's when the shaking really kicks in. And I want to be clear here, this isn't muscle failure like people usually imagine. It's not that burning pain you're expecting, it's something different. Your arms start vibrating, your legs are literally trembling while you're still holding the position, and you're just stuck there trying to keep it together. I genuinely thought I was fit enough to handle that part. Turns out, in the beginning, I wasn't. And this is where it gets interesting, because what's actually going on here is something most people never hear about. For the first 4 weeks of isometric training, it's not really about muscle the way you'd expect. I mean, yeah, your muscles are working, but the real change isn't happening there yet. What's actually happening is your nervous system is being pushed to do something it's not used to. It's trying to recruit and coordinate a bunch of muscle fibers that have never really worked together like this before. Think of it like a construction crew showing up on day 1. Everyone's there, all the workers are present, but no one really knows who's supposed to do what yet. That shaking I had, it's basically your brain trying to fire a ton of muscle fibers at the same time, and just not being fully in sync yet. And by the end of week 2, I went back to that push-up test I mentioned earlier. Guess what? I went from 20 reps to 23. Not bad, I guess. Let's see if that 50 rep goal is actually possible. The coming weeks is where things started getting a lot more interesting. At week 3, the holds actually started feeling manageable. I won't say easy, let's not lie, but compared to week 1, it felt like a completely different experience. The wall sit goes up to 60 seconds, and this time my form isn't falling apart halfway through. That chin-up hold, I'm staying up there longer than the point where I'd normally just give up and drop. But then there's the plank. I kept getting stuck at around the 1 minute 30 second mark, and honestly, I started to feel like this thing had a personal problem with me. Around day 18, it felt exactly like those old algebra courses as a kid, just dragging and boring and time isn't moving. And I want to explain this properly, because it's not why you'd expect. Nothing is actually going wrong. I mean, progress is happening, but still, I wanted to quit. And that's the weird thing about static holds. There's nothing to chase at the moment. There's no reps going up, no weight getting heavier. It's just you, the position, and a timer that genuinely feels like it's moving backwards. I tried music, but that just made it worse. I tried counting the seconds out loud, which just made me stare at the clock even harder. And honestly, the only thing that actually helped me get through it was just focusing on my breathing. It sounds simple, but it made it way easier than just sitting there letting the boredom get worse. By the end of week 3, as you already know, I had to do another push-up test, but this time, nothing changed. Still stuck at 23 reps, and I know what you're probably thinking right now. Yeah, at this pace, hitting 50 by day 90 is going to be tough, so clearly something needed to change. But what? So I thought, alright, from here on, I'm bumping it up, going from 2 to 3 sets to 3 to 4 sets per exercise, and let's see what that actually does. especially now going into week 5 because according to the research, this is where the real structural phase is supposed to kick in. This was the week where technically the muscle growth should have started. I'm ready. I have put up the hard work. I have broken the boredom wall, but nothing happens. And at that point, I was just sitting there thinking, okay, am I just extremely unlucky or am I messing something up here? Because my hold times just stopped improving. The numbers completely plateaued. And look, to be fair, my diet was on point the whole time. Okay, there was the one Burger King cheat day, but come on. But hey, take a quick pause and click the subscribe button. But apart from that, everything else was clean, healthy, and consistent. And honestly, as if that wasn't frustrating enough, the push-up test at the end of week 5 only got me 26 reps. Barely any progress in 2 weeks. So at that point, I'm thinking, I'm not injured, I'm not undertraining, so what's going on? Something is clearly off, I just can't see it yet. So I started digging even more into the research instead of just blindly following the plan. The thing I must have completely missed on day 1. Now listen to this, because this part changes everything. What the research basically says is isometric training builds muscle almost entirely at the specific angle you train. But more importantly, the exact position you're holding determines how much muscle you're actually building, because muscles don't grow the most where they feel the hardest. They grow the most when they're stretched under tension, like fully lengthened, not just squeezed. Think about a rubber band for a second. If you only stretch it halfway, it's doing something, but it's not under real tension. The real load, the kind that actually forces change, that only happens when you stretch it all the way. And when I looked back at what I was doing, it made more sense now. Take the chin-up hold, for example. I was staying at the top. My biceps were fully contracted, lats completely shortened. It felt intense, no doubt, but I wasn't loading them where they would grow best. Same with the wall sit. I locked it in at 90 degrees, right in that middle range, not fully stretched, not fully challenged in the way that actually drives growth. And the plank, look, it burns, sure, but the core is just sitting there in what is essentially a neutral position. No real stretch, no deep loading. So yeah, every exercise I picked, it hit that this feels hard zone, but not the this actually builds muscle fastest zone. Well, the fix wasn't adjusting the angle slightly, the fix was switching the exercises entirely. The chin-up hold at the top gets replaced by a dead hang. Now my arms are fully extended and my lats and biceps are under full stretch with my entire body weight. And honestly, that's what I'd been missing from day 1. The wall sit at 90 degrees gets replaced by a rear foot elevated split squat hold. The plank stays the same, but instead of a neutral plank, I drop into the bottom of a push-up hold. Chest about an inch off the floor, pecs fully stretched, and tension as high as it can possibly be. So the first session with the new exercises was at day 40, and immediately things felt different. The dead hang at just 20 seconds felt harder than the chin-up hold ever did at its worst. The split squat hold burns in places the wall sit never even touched. Honestly, I felt like I wished I had figured this out earlier. But at the same time, it's not too late. By week 7, I remember looking at myself in the mirror. Still, nothing really looked different. If I'm being real, I was expecting at least something obvious, but visually, pretty much the same. But at the same time, I could feel something was off, in a good way. I tested some pull-ups for fun, and interestingly, they felt much easier than before. And posture, this one surprised me. I wasn't even thinking about it anymore, but I'd catch myself just standing straighter without trying. Then I thought, alright, let's see if this actually shows up somewhere. So I did the push-up test again at the end of week 8. Now take a guess. What do you think it was? Some of you are probably close. It came out to 34 reps. So yeah, at this point it's pretty clear the new exercises are working. But as you know, that switch cost me a good 5 weeks. Like 5 weeks of thinking, is this even doing anything? And then suddenly the last 4 weeks come in and do more than those first 5 combined. And then there was something else happening. Something no one really noticed. My resting blood pressure started going down, like noticeably down, and interestingly, I didn't even track it at the beginning of this whole thing. But here's the surprising fact. Isometric training, specifically sustained holds, is the single most effective training method for reducing resting blood pressure according to current research. That's more effective than cardio, which I'm not gonna lie, sounds a little illegal. For 2 months, I was doing the most effective blood pressure training in existence, and I had absolutely no clue, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But anyways, by week 9, physically, I felt amazing. Honestly, probably the best I had felt the entire time. And now, day 90 is literally 3 sessions away. So yeah, we're about to find out what all of this actually led to. Because from the very start, the goal was simple: 50 push-ups and muscle growth. So, it's time to see the results. Let's start with the dead hang. Recall day 40 when I first switched to it. I could barely hold 20 seconds, but today I can hold it for 1 minute and 43 seconds. And what's funny is, the position that used to feel like punishment is now one I actually look forward to the most. I didn't see that coming. Then, rear foot elevated split squat hold. On day 40, I couldn't even cross 22 seconds per leg. Today, I can go 2 minutes and 8 seconds with each leg. That one still hurts. Honestly, it hurts more than a breakup. But let's talk about what we're all waiting for, the push-up test. This is the number the whole experiment was built around. I started at 20, and as you know, the goal was 50, and I ended up doing 43 reps. Just 7 short of 50. Honestly, I'll take that, but the real question is, what actually changed over these 90 days? Well, first off, strength in those exact held positions went way up. That part's obvious, but what surprised me more was the carryover. Pull-ups, dips, and pressing everything just feels cleaner now. Not because I suddenly got bigger or anything, it's more like I can create tension faster, and I'm not leaking it everywhere like I used to. Blood pressure came down too, which I definitely wasn't expecting going in. Now visually, I mean, let's be real for a second, it did nothing. So if your main goal is aesthetics, this is the worst way to take. But here's the main thing. What actually got worse? Well, anything explosive. Jump height, sprint starts, that little pop you feel in movements like muscle ups, all of that took a hit. And honestly, that didn't even surprise me that much, because if you look at the research, it pretty much says the same thing. If all you're doing is slow, sustained holds, your ability to produce force quickly starts to drop. It's like your body gets really good at being patient and kind of forgets how to be fast. That's the trade-off no one really talks about. You get insanely strong in those static positions, no doubt. But if you're not training speed and power alongside it, that side just slowly goes quiet. So what's the actual conclusion from me? Isometrics stay. 2 to 3 times a week alongside normal training. That's the base everything else builds on. Not replacing it. That would be a mistake. So would I recommend this for building muscle? Honestly, no. But if you want stronger joints, tougher tendons, better blood pressure, and a level of body awareness that actually improves everything else you do, then yeah, 100%. And if 90 days sounds like a lot, which to be fair, it is, just add 2 to 3 isometric holds into what you're already doing. The right ones, not the ones I started with. Learn from my mistakes. Shout out to this comment, and if you want to learn more, just click the subscribe button and sign up for my free newsletter. I love writing, so I do it in my free time and put some surprises in there as well because I appreciate everyone who watches my videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.